Good morning. This is Susan of the North with the weekly overview of the runes for March 24th to March 30th. On Sunday, I drew the rune Awaz. Awaz is a rune of forward motion. It also relates to emotion, and it relates to being motivated by a positive emotion. It can mean also the positive relationships that we feel with our pets, most notably horse and rider. And it can also correlate to relationships that we have with domesticated animals, because around the time that the runes came out, people were still evolving from hunter-gathering societies into agricultural communities. This is a rune that I always find very positive to draw, because it means that things are moving forward in a positive direction. On Monday, I drew the rune Halk. Halk is about reaching for your happiness, for your bliss, as high as you can. We may fall short in our efforts, but that doesn't mean that we should not try. If we never try, we always fail. If we try, we sometimes succeed, but we always learn something in the process. We learn what is truly meant for our happiness and what is not. On Tuesday, the rune that came up was Gebo or Gifu. We've seen this before as the gift. It can be a mutual exchange of gifts, a reciprocity. You may be receiving something in a material way. It may be a gift of happiness. It may be a gift of spiritual connection. It may be a new partnership. It might be a marriage is coming up. It might mean a new best friend. It has all of these connotations, but it is always positive. As you can see, Gar has no reversed meaning. Not Gar. Gabo has no reversed meaning. On Wednesday, I drew the rune Ior. Ior is the river serpent, and I always associate so much with this particular rune. The river serpent relates in the Norse mythology to the Midgard serpent named Jormungand, and he has both a protective and a nurturing feature to his character. He protects Midgard against attacks from without. And when we regard all of the regenerative properties of the serpent, Moses had a serpent on a cross that he carried as the Israelis were leaving Egypt in their exodus to the promised land. There is the Uberos of time who always bites his own tail. It's a cycle. The serpent is considered a healing symbol because he sheds his skin. Unfortunately, we are left with a lot of prejudice against snakes because the Christian mythology of Eden and the snake that tempted Eve, but that's neither here nor there. I asking you today to consider the positive regenerative qualities of the serpentine energy, which if you look into the study of yoga, there are two serpents within a person. One is a black naga, one is a white naga. They rise up from the bottom of the spine to meet at the crown of the head through all the chakras. And this is awakening Kundalini. And it's a time-centered process. When it happens too fast, you don't have the preparation to deal with it. Your conditioning is not allowing of its openness of the experience. It takes time to meditate through this awakening. And it relates to the chi, the energy that is given to human beings, both for procreation and for growing our soul bodies, as it were, those aspects of ourself that will survive physical death. So it has a lot of good connotations. So today, which is Wednesday for this weekly overview, I want to ask you to go within and see what you need to do to nurture your soul, Maybe you'll take up a class like yoga or one of the martial arts that focuses on chi. Maybe you'll take up meditation. Maybe you'll take up Kundalini meditation, whatever it is for you that you feel drawn to nurturing your soul today. Maybe it's as simple as retreating into solitude and doing a painting. But this is what the day turns up. Nurture your soul today. For Thursday, and I should say one more interpretation on Ior, sometimes to go within, to be self-introspective and to see where we are at emotionally is a form of soul growth as well, because you are releasing those things that hold you back. Now, that said, I'm stepping into Thursday with Laguz reversed. Laguz is equated with emotions. Emotions are equated with water. Laguz means lake. A deep body of water is very still. There can be a lot going on under the surface that you don't know about until you take a look at it. But Laguz is water also running to that deep body of water. Water is always changing its form. It takes the shape of its container. It rises to water vapor on a warm day to fall again as rain as it condenses in the sky. So Laguz takes on many forms. And when it comes up reversed, the flow is blocked. We don't have the Rune Isa here, so it's not ice. But the flow is blocked in some way. It's not frozen. But you may be seeing in yourself, I often draw this rune when I'm creatively blocked and I need to release an emotion in order to get back on track with what I'm trying to create, make, do. Sometimes this rune relates to the workday, and maybe you are working with a team of people who aren't cooperating that day, or someone's being grumpy, and it's just not a feeling good type of a day. In which case, my advice to you would be just to hold on to your equilibrium as well as you can and make the best of it. Because the rune on Friday is the warrior. The warrior, he has a lot of meanings for me too, this one. The warrior rune is named after the god Tyr, or Tiwaz. It's a very old word meaning God, like Zeus or Tus. And Tyr is the original, he lived in the North Star. So if you are looking for guidance in the days before technology and we had all of these artificial navigation systems, we had to rely upon the positioning of planetary bodies in the night sky so we would know which way to go. So if you wanted to go north, Tyr was the rune. This could be your awakening compass. This could be your true north. And it takes a warrior to step into following his passion and what he or she wants to do. More traditionally, this rune is a soldier, usually related to men. But in this day and age, when women are taking on more and more of men's roles, it could also relate to a woman. But it's about somebody who is protective, somebody who takes up the cause of looking out for someone else who needs their strength and support. It could be also relate to, and I relate this again to the god Tyr in the Norse mythology. I think I told this story last week when he came up or reversed for some reason, 2 weeks ago, when he came up reversed. And that was that Tyr was the only god who had a relationship with the wolf Fenris. And the wolf was getting bigger and bigger, and all of the other Aesir, the gods of Asgard, were becoming afraid of this wolf, and they kept trying to imprison him and chain him, but he broke all of his bonds. And finally, they came up with a chain they thought would do it. And by now, Fenris was quite wary of their efforts to chain him. And he said, well, I'll only put it on if someone is courageous enough to put their hand in my mouth while they are putting it on. So they put this thing on, and Fenris couldn't get loose. Oh, back up a step. Tyr was the only god who had the courage and the integrity to put his arm in the wolf's mouth. And of course, when Fenris could not get loose from this bondage and he couldn't break the chain, he bit Tyr's arm off. So Tyr is now a one-handed god, but he was the only god who had the courage to have a relationship with this being. And then he was the only god who had the integrity to do something about the need for the group to isolate something that they feared. He is the one at the border, the one watching at the border, creating the boundary so that some endangering energy cannot reach out and destroy the coherent goodwill among the group. So when I speak to Tyr, I often think of how in our path of spiritual evolution, which we touched upon a little bit with Ior on Wednesday, we need to contain ourselves. We become the container by developing practices of integrity, like keeping our word and not making promises we won't keep. To be a person of integrity means that the group can trust you. It means that even beings who are outside the group can trust you because your reliability is known. It is true that he had to betray Fenris in order to stand true to the group. And that is just an example of how we all meet oppositional forces in life, that we don't always make the choices that are as true to our integrity as we could want, but it happens. On Saturday, the rune I drew is Gar. Gar is Odin's spear. It is something he uses to mark things for himself. Odin is a god of consciousness. He is a god of learning. He is a god of wisdom, sometimes learned through adverse experiences, but he is always his own person. This rune can mean that you are called to be your own person. It could mean you have been chosen for a period of learning, of study, of intensity. But if you also look at the two runes of which this rune is constructed, you see the shape for Gabo, which we had arise on Tuesday. And you see the shape for Inguz in this smaller square space, which one interpretation of could be a seed that has been planted, something that is gestating, something that is waiting to come into form yet to be harvested. And the rune Gabo is the gift of nurturing this thing into its growth, its harvest. So that might include a period of learning, of coming into wisdom. So on that note, which seems very positive to me, I am Susan of the North, and this has been the runic overview for the week of March 24th through the week of March 30th. Thank you for joining me here in this space.